Welcome to Conspiracist. Today we're diving into the hypothesis of government UFO silence. Basically the idea that governments have intentionally hidden evidence about UFOs. We've got quite a bit of information here spanning decades, really. Investigations, theories, even recent government moves. Our goal today is to objectively look at the reasoning and, the reported evidence behind these claims.
It's definitely a complex topic, touches on national security, psychology, even fundamental questions about extraterrestrial life. What's really noticeable is just the sheer amount of information out there. Official stuff, personal stories. It's hard to sort through it all, frankly.
Right. So let's start with some history. Roswell, 1947. That's often seen as like the key moment, isn't it?
It really is. The official Air Force line was a weather balloon, of course.
But the speculation about a crashed spaceship just hasn't gone away.
No, it hasn't. And what's interesting is how quickly people doubted that official explanation. It kind of set a precedent. A mistrust of the official story that kept popping up later.
So after Roswell, we get these official Air Force investigations, Project Echelon, Project Grudge, and then the big one, Project Blue Book, running from 52 to 69.
Right. And initially, a major worry was that these things could be Soviet secret weapons.
Yeah, that makes sense for the time.
Absolutely. Early Cold War, anything weird in the sky, the first thought was, is this something the Soviets built? That was a big driver for those early studies. But in the end, the Air Force reports generally concluded most sightings were, mundane things.
Like mass hysteria, hoaxes, mistaking planes or balloons.
Exactly. Known objects.
Oh.
But interestingly, even while saying that, they recommended keeping it under military intelligence control.
Which seems a little odd, right, if it's mostly nothing significant.
It does raise a point. Why maintain military control if it's largely dismissed? Maybe just caution in a tense era.
Perhaps, but it definitely fueled later ideas about a cover-up.
No doubt. Then you also had things like Project Y, this joint Canadian-British-U.S. thing looking into flying saucer-type craft.
Right, and the CIA was apparently worried the Soviets were doing similar work.
Precisely. So governments were interested in unconventional aircraft concepts, even if public sightings were explained away differently. It shows a level of serious interest behind the scenes.
Okay, what about the sighting by Senator Richard Russell in the USSR in 1955? You'd think a senator's report would carry some weight.
You assume so. But the CIA analysis apparently concluded he probably just saw normal jets climbing steeply.
Huh. So again, leaning towards the conventional explanation, even with a high-profile witness.
It seems that way. It shows a pattern, perhaps, of seeking non-exotic answers.
Then jumping ahead to the late 60s, the Condon Committee. The CIA was involved there too, wasn't it? Their photo analysis unit, NPIC.
Yes, NPIC did some work for them. But the condition was that the CIA's role had to stay secret, unacknowledged.
Why the secrecy, do you think?
Well, it could be a few things. Maybe to avoid fanning public speculation, or possibly to protect their photo analysis methods, which might have been classified. Strategic separation, perhaps.
Then in 1979, DCI Stansfield Turner looked into the CIA's past UFO work. And he reportedly found no organized effort since the 50s, just some scattered letters. That seems to argue against a continuous, active cover-up within the CIA, doesn't it?
It does suggest that, at least according to that inquiry. Maybe after the initial Cold War worries died down, formal interest waned. The sporadic correspondence could just be dealing with occasional reports as they came in, nothing structured.
And Project Blue Book's big finale, special report, #14, it claimed to debunk UFOs.
That was the public conclusion, yes.
But critics jumped on it. They pointed out the data seemed to show the opposite, that the unknowns were statistically different from the knowns.
Exactly. And that a higher percentage of those unknowns were found in the better quality cases, the ones with more data, more reliable witnesses.
So the Air Force's own data arguably undermined their conclusion. That's a pretty significant discrepancy.
It's a crucial observation. It implies the best, most documented cases couldn't be easily explained away. That finding really fueled the idea that something significant was being downplayed or hidden.
Okay, let's shift gears now to the theories about intentional hiding and even disinformation. Donald Kehoe comes up, right? His idea of a silence group inside the government.
Yes, back in the 1950s, Kehoe was convinced the government knew about extraterrestrial visits, but was keeping it quiet. Panic prevention, maybe societal disruption, that was his reasoning, based on alleged leaks and how he interpreted official statements.
And then in the 70s, you get the term cosmic Watergate.
Right, drawing that parallel to a known government scandal gave the UFO cover-up idea a kind of perceived legitimacy.
Yeah. And films like Close Encounters of the Third Kind definitely pushed that narrative into the mainstream.
Absolutely. Pop culture played a huge role in embedding the idea of government UFO secrecy in the public mind.
Then things seem to get more specific. Theories about alien bodies at Hangar 18,
Mm-hmm.
and Roswell suddenly becomes huge again in 1978 with these detailed claims of a crash and a cover-up operation.
Yeah, the late 70s saw a real surge in these more, let's say, sensational narratives. Hangar 18, the revived Roswell story with more elaborate details. It started to build a more concrete, almost tangible conspiracy framework.
Now, Richard Doty, his name pops up a lot regarding disinformation.
Indeed. He's linked to allegedly feeding false stories to researchers like Paul Benowitz in the late 70s, early 80s.
Stories about government treaties with aliens, cattle mutilations being alien-related. Pretty wild stuff.
Very wild. And if true, it represents a deliberate effort to muddy the waters. Spreading these outlandish tales had a lasting impact, potentially making serious research harder by association.
And the MJ-12 documents fit in here too, right? Appeared in 81, supposedly used against Benowitz.
Yes, they surfaced then. Purported top-secret memos about a government group managing the alien situation.
But they were heavily scrutinized later and pretty much debunked. Lack of proof, stylistic errors.
Right. And eventually, Bill Moore, one of the people who promoted them, admitted he'd created a facsimile.
Yeah.
It looks like a clear case of faked evidence being pushed into the narrative.
Which brings us back to Benowitz. There are claims of a specific counterintelligence operation targeting him.
Yes, the allegation isn't just that they fed him disinformation, but that they actively encouraged his delusions about aliens at Kirtland Air Force Base, rather than just telling him to stop looking.
Why would they do that? To discredit him or the whole UFO community?
That's the debate. Was it to make UFO researchers look crazy? Or was it perhaps a way to provide cover for testing actual classified experimental aircraft over Kirtland? Create a distracting, bizarre explanation for any sightings.
It's a very disturbing possibility.
It is. And adding another layer, there are claims that some people inside government, military, intelligence, actually did believe in extraterrestrial visitation.
So maybe some cover-up talk came from sincere insiders who thought they knew something.
That's a critical point. If someone in authority genuinely believes, they might interpret official silence or denials as proof of a cover-up and contribute to that narrative themselves. We know astronauts like Edgar Mitchell and Gordon Cooper express such beliefs publicly.
Interesting. What about the idea that disinformation was used just to make the whole subject look ridiculous?
That's a common theory. Ridicule can be very effective. If the topic seems absurd, serious inquiry might drop off. That could protect classified military projects, or maybe even counter Soviet attempts to infiltrate the UFO field back during the Cold War.
There's also testimony, like in the documentary Mirage Men, from people like Robert Durant, saying misinformation was intentionally fed to researchers like Benowitz, Linda Howe, Bill Moore.
Right, those first-hand accounts suggest a deliberate, maybe not centrally planned, but still coordinated, effort to influence what UFO researchers believed and investigated.
And finally, the whole Serpo story. This alleged astronaut exchange program with aliens. Richard Doty's name comes up again, with conflicting stories about his role.
Yeah, Serpo is another example. Extraordinary claims, inconsistent accounts. It really highlights how hard it is to separate solid information from hoaxes or disinformation in this area. Could be another deliberate plan or just a story that caught on.
Okay, let's pivot to alternative explanations, things that aren't cover-ups or aliens. Misidentification seems huge.
Absolutely. A lot of sightings likely have perfectly normal explanations. Balloons are a classic. Remember Roswell's initial explanation.
Right. And things like rocket launches gone wrong, like that spiral in Norway in 2009.
Exactly. That was a Russian missile test failure. Looked bizarre, but had a clear terrestrial origin. Weather phenomena, aircraft, even satellites can be mistaken, especially at night or from far away.
And technology itself can play tricks, right? Like infrared cameras.
Definitely. Infrared sees heat, not light like our eyes. So thermal signatures can look weird. Things like camera focus issues or parallax where a distant object seems to move because the observer is moving can create really misleading effects on sensors.
It's not always what it seems, literally.
Precisely. Sensor artifacts are a real issue.
And then there are our own minds. Cognitive biases seem to play a big role in beliefs about UFOs, alien abductions.
Oh, absolutely. We're drawn to human-like stories. The gray alien image, some psychologists suggest subconscious links, maybe even to infant memories.
Plus, confirmation bias, fitting new info into what we already believe.
Right. And negativity bias carries stories often stick better. And just the tendency to see that typical gray look as intelligent somehow. These psychological factors are powerful shapers of belief, even without strong proof.
It's also been suggested that UFO mythology kind of feeds itself.
Like a self-sustaining ecosystem of stories. New fake documents or memes can pop up online, get woven into the existing lore without needing some big top-down conspiracy pushing it constantly.
Interesting. Okay, one more alternative. What if some sightings are advanced tech, but human tech? Classified stuff.
That's a very plausible explanation for some cases, especially ones involving high performance. If a government developed truly breakthrough aerospace technology, they'd classify it for national security.
And keeping that secret might involve silence or even active misdirection, making people think it's something else, like aliens.
Exactly. It provides a strong motive for secrecy that doesn't involve extraterrestrials at all.
Okay, let's move to more recent times. Government activity seems to have picked up. We've got the UAP Task Force, now AARO.
Right, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Setting these up suggests a renewed, more formalized official interest. Standardizing how sightings, especially from military personnel, are collected and analyzed, it signals a shift.
And actual congressional hearings on UAPs, first public ones in over 50 years. Plus, NASA starting its own independent study.
Those are significant moves towards, well, at least appearing more transparent, engaging with a topic publicly, bringing NASA's scientific approach into it. It's a different posture than decades past.
The Pentagon has also officially released UAP videos. Some that were leaked before they confirmed were real.
That's a big step, too. Releasing actual footage, even if it doesn't explain what the objects are, acknowledges these encounters are happening. It gives the public direct visual evidence to consider.
But then on the other hand, AIRO put out a report recently.
Yes, a significant report.
And it basically denied any proof of secret U.S. deals with aliens or reverse engineering alien tech.
It did. The report suggested UFO belief stems more from things like low public trust, UFOs being everywhere in pop culture, and maybe unnecessary secrecy in other government areas that breed suspicion. It's a direct counter to the cover-up hypothesis.
AIR also said they couldn't substantiate claims about UFOs interfering with nuclear weapon sites.
Right. That's been a major theme in cover-up theories for years. UFOs showing interest in our nuclear capabilities. AIRO essentially said the evidence for those specific claims, often based on hearsay, just wasn't there. Another pillar of the cover-up idea challenged.
And officials keep saying the main focus of these UAP investigations is identifying potential foreign tech, right? Like advanced drones from China or Russia?
That's been the consistent public message. Frame it as a national security issue about potential threats from other countries, not necessarily aliens. It downplays the extraterrestrial angle in their official stance.
There's also the argument that even if these things aren't alien, maybe releasing too much detail could be risky.
How so?
Well, the concern is that if some UAPs represent truly novel physics or technology, even human-made revealing how they work could let adversaries like China or Russia figure it out and replicate it. Things related to propulsion, maybe even theoretical stuff like space-time manipulation.
Okay. So secrecy might be needed to protect a potential technological advantage regardless of its origin. That provides a non-alien rationale for continued discretion.
Makes sense. And finally, very recently, we had the whistleblower testimony from David Grush.
Right, that caused quite a stir.
He claimed the U.S. has a secret, decades-long program recovering and reverse engineering UFOs, actual craft.
And the Pentagon flatly denied those claims.
Yes. So it's a direct, high-profile assertion of the government UFO silence hypothesis met with an official denial. It really highlights the ongoing tension here.
Absolutely. Grush's testimony, though unverified publicly and denied officially, has definitely poured fuel on the fire for those who believe in a cover-up. Shows the debate is far from over.
So in this deep dive, we've really covered a lot of ground related to this government UFO silence idea, from Roswell and the early projects through the alleged disinformation campaigns.
And the alternative explanations, like misidentification, psychological factors, maybe classified tech.
Right, all the way up to the recent government task forces reports and whistleblower claims. It gives you a pretty broad picture to think about.
It does. You have to consider the history, the potential for bias on all sides, the real national security concerns. It's all part of untangling this very complex subject. The evidence for a cover-up is definitely debated and often comes down to interpretation.
Thanks for listening to Conspiracist.